Hubert Stein, a very famous and well-known author, recently left his grand home in Boston, Massachusetts, and moved into a small apartment. He left his wife, his son, and all his wealth in Boston and started to live a life on his own in Gloucester. Hubert was going through quite a struggle in his life. At the age of 45, he found himself depressed and lonely, and every task seemed like a hassle. A few days back, Hubert got an invitation in his mailbox to a Valentine's party being held in the community meeting room of the apartment building. Since Hubert would be bored at home anyways, he thought this would be a chance to meet some new people and lighten his mood. When Hubert got there, he took a seat to one corner and watched everyone enjoying themselves. The party had been arranged with a lot of preparation. He observed all his neighbors. Everyone here is busy with their Valentine. I don't have a Valentine this year. Hubert looked at a young woman take a seat next to him. She looked like she was in her 20s. Hubert was a little surprised at how candid she was with him. He was much older than her, but she was comfortably speaking to him as if he were one of her friends. She jubilantly said, "I noticed you've been sitting here for some time now. You're just watching the people here. Are you new here?" "Yes, I moved here a few days back. I'm Hubert Stein." Hubert hesitated to say his name. He assumed that the young woman would instantly recognize him for his work. He didn't want to have too much attention on him at the moment. But surprisingly, the young woman didn't recognize who he was. "I'm Leah Zimmerman. I'm a student. I'm in my second year at college here." "So, what do you do?" "I'm an author. You would probably recognize my work." Hubert mentioned a few of his bestsellers to the young woman, but she shook her head. She had never even heard of those books. "You know what? You should send me the names of those books again. I could read them. Have you heard the saying, 'A book a day keeps stupidity away'?" Hubert enjoyed the evening at the party, and it was majorly due to the young woman, Leah. She was quite entertaining, and Hubert had a good laugh after a long time. Hubert came back to his apartment feeling a little refreshed. The next day went by as usual, until someone rang his bell. Hubert wasn't expecting anyone to visit him. He hadn't given his new address to anyone yet. He opened the door and found Leah standing on the other side with a basket in her hand. She gave a bubbly smile and said, "Hi, Hubert. I forgot to tell you yesterday. I also don't have any friends in this building, except for maybe you." Hubert chuckled. "Yes, of course, we're friends. We're practically the same age. I was thinking about enrolling into the second year of college myself." "Really? I thought you'd be my junior. May I come in? I've spent a lot of love making this dish. Perhaps we could have dinner together." "That was very kind of you. Come in." Hubert was glad to see Leah again. Leah was a delightful young woman, and she could make Hubert forget about his miseries. After Leah and Hubert had dinner together, they sat down and talked until it was pretty late. The next day, Hubert found himself waiting for Leah. He wasn't sure whether she would come, but Hubert couldn't help but think of her. Surprisingly, Leah showed up in the evening again. Soon, Hubert and Leah started seeing each other regularly. Leah would bring food over to Hubert's apartment. Over the days, she had arranged all the furniture around the house. Leah took a lot of care of Hubert. She even kept in mind what he ate and what he didn't. Hubert didn't feel lonely anymore. He was happy, and it was all because of Leah. She made him laugh, she was flirty, and she knew how to romance. In short, she entertained Hubert. One of these days, Leah asked Hubert, "So Hubert, tell me about your wife. Why did you leave her?" "It's a long story, and it starts a long time back. I'm here to listen. You can tell me. My father used to work for a very wealthy and influential man named Gerard Frank. Gerard Frank had a daughter that he had pampered a bit too much. He realized how much he had spoiled his daughter the day he found out that his daughter had come home pregnant. He didn't want the news to get out and ruin his reputation. He spoke to my father and offered his daughter's hand in marriage to me. My father was deeply grateful to Gerard for all that he had done for him, and he insisted that I marry Rosemary. Soon, I married her, but it was after the marriage that I found out that she was pregnant. They had hid the pregnancy from me, and I was devastated when I got to know the truth. I wanted to divorce her immediately, but her father wouldn't allow that. He coerced me, saying he had favored me and my family. He said he only had one daughter, and that she would inherit all his property for herself. But if I were to keep her as my wife and conceal the truth behind the marriage, he would write off half of the property to me. I couldn't deny what Gerard Frank had done for me and my family, and I kept the secret hidden, and lived with Rosemary. But even if we were married, there was no relationship. She didn't care for me. She never spoke to me with a smile. She was always rude and disrespectful, and I never touched her. We both raised the child. I treated him as my own. But his mother gave him a bad brought-up. He goes to college now. He's 22. But in these past 22 years of bringing him up, I never got any respect from him for what I've done for him as a father. Recently, Gerard passed away, and I got half of the property as he had promised. Over the years, I've made much wealth myself from the books I've written, and I wasn't too interested in claiming the property. I just wanted relief from the miserable life I had been living. So I left everything and moved here to begin a new life in hope that I could be happy. Leah's eyes became teary after listening to Hubert's life story. But she tried to cheer him up, as she usually did. Hubert had soon caught feelings for this young woman, and Leah was already in love with Hubert. Things were going on like this until one day Leah came to the apartment with a surprise. "I have a surprise for you, Hubert." "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." Hubert was surprised. Leah was on contraception. The news had come to him as a shocker. He hadn't expected something like this to happen, at least not this early. "Hubert, I want you to marry me." Leah wanted Hubert to marry her and raise the child with her. Hubert wasn't at all upset by the news, but he needed some time to think everything through. That was the first time Hubert had seen Leah look a little stressed when she left the apartment. After some thought, Hubert came to realize that perhaps this is what he needed. This would be a start to a new life, a happy life that he never got to experience. All these days, it had been Leah that would come to Hubert's apartment. Hubert never went to her apartment. So Hubert decided to surprise Leah. Before Leah would return home, Hubert went to her apartment. He managed to open the lock with a credit card. But what he discovered when he went inside thundered him. He found stacks and collections of all his books in Leah's apartment. At first, he thought she had recently bought them all, but then he noticed Leah's desk. There, she had files over files of information about him, newspapers, magazines, cutouts of interviews he had given over the years, among many other occasions. Later that afternoon, Leah came home from college and found her door open. She saw that Hubert was sitting on her couch with his arms folded. He looked furious. "What is all of this? You lied to me. I wanted to marry you, but that is never going to happen now." "Hubert, wait. Try to understand. I've been a fan of your work my whole life. I've collected and read all of your books. When I learned that you moved here, I moved to this apartment for a chance to meet you. But after I got to know you, I fell in love with you. Hubert, don't leave me. I didn't have any bad intentions." Hubert was enraged. He didn't want to listen to Leah anymore. He insulted her and stormed out of the apartment. He came back to his own apartment and tried to cool down. After some time, his doorbell rang. He thought it was Leah, but he didn't want to see her. Hubert got up reluctantly and opened the door. But there was no one there. There on the floor was a basket decorated with food. Hubert regretted how he had behaved with Leah. Perhaps he was a bit too harsh with her. Leah truly cared for him. Even after all that he had told Leah, she still came to leave this for him. Hubert took the basket inside. He had his dinner and soon went to sleep. Later on in the night, he started to feel anxious and uneasy. Soon, Hubert began to have trouble breathing and was forced to call an ambulance. But when the paramedics arrived, they found Hubert had passed away from a heart attack on his bed. He was feeling unwell. That's why he took medication and called 911. Looks like he accidentally overdosed himself. Leah was heartbroken and miserable when she saw the paramedics take Hubert away. She had lost a person she dearly loved. She felt guilty. She blamed herself for what happened to Hubert. Leah soon gave birth to a son, who she took lots of care of. Her son was a memory of Hubert. She named him Ronald Stein. A few years later, Leah won the court case against Rosemary Stein and her son, Philip Stein, to claim the wealth and property left by Hubert. After DNA testing, the court confirmed that Ronald Stein was indeed Hubert's biological son, whereas Philip Stein was not. The court ruled Ronald Stein as the only inheritor to Hubert Stein's property. "Mother, because of you we have lost our property. And not only that, now people look down on us. I tried everything, Philip. Now don't blame it on me. What more could I have done? How could I have known that she was pregnant?" Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.